Right, great. So I think I'll just go into today's interview questions. We'll start off with the first question. Maybe you can share with us, especially with the COVID-19 being a huge problem for organizations everywhere, and with employees now working remotely as well. So how can organizations maintain a secure network?
You know, Aaron, this is actually a pretty big question because, when we really take a look at what's happening in our industry, and when we even take a look at the past 2 decades, um, it's been a question that's been an ongoing uh, thing in the way we've been really developing and trying to perfect our security practice, as an industry. Today, when you really take a look at what's happening with digital transformation, we're seeing the name of the game is speed. So to open up your architecture, your business architecture means you need to open up your IT architecture. So organizations are flocking to, cloud, public cloud, multiple clouds. Organizations are really kind of adopting applications via SaaS rather than kind of building their own applications. And accordingly, 70% of an organization's infrastructure is actually in the public domain. Accordingly, your remote presence, your branches, and your nomadic users don't really need to go back to your data center, whereas very little of your applications and data are sitting there, and they really need to get directly to SaaS providers and public cloud providers. And from that perspective, internet access is no longer centralized, is decentralized, and we see things like SD-WAN that's facilitating that decentralization. So all of a sudden, what's left an organization is the brand, that border that defined where the organization is and what's inside the organization and what's outside is gone, and now the brand is the only thing that really is that umbrella that really defines an organization and all its kind of stakeholders. How do you really provide security in that context? It's not about securing one place in the network, it's about this pervasive security. And thus, the mindset of the CISO, the mindset of the CIO, the mindset of the security team and organization has to fundamentally change. And obviously, with that mindset change comes a very different type of architecture with different type of technologies. So this is where I think adopting this hybrid um, architecture where you can, architecture, do some security on premise in a cloud native, cloud managed perspective, as well as rely on security that comes to you via SaaS and from the cloud in a well thought out, born in the cloud architecture becomes really, really paramount. So COVID-19 is an accelerant of digital transformation. When we do business planning and when we really do network design to support our business, whether in the old world or in the new world, we never really thought about the fact that an entire, organizational users, be it its employees, its users, contractors, will be completely, remote. And thus, when you really take a look at it, that really fundamentally says an organizational infrastructure and all its stakeholders that it will serve, whether it's its employees or users, are completely outside the realm of that organization. So we've never done business planning and business continuity plans and designs for that. And from that perspective, it really basically sending a very big message to organizations to say, we cannot control who tries to come in and interact with our resources, be it an application, data, or our users. We don't really have control over devices, meaning in the old days when you kind of get hired and hand employees or contractors a device and say, hey, this device is kind of IT certified. There's no more concept of this IT certified. So from that perspective, we need to move all that intelligence, to the edge. VPNs is old world. You know, a VPN is all it does is providing a privacy service. It doesn't really scrutinize things like, you know, malware. It does not scrutinize things like lookalike domains. When you really take a look at lots of what we've seen in terms of exploits that were born in the COVID-19 era, you know, things like lookalike domains. You know, you basically simply read a domain name and a brand that looks so legitimate, and when you click on it, the computer, it basically has, you know, homographs, you know, some special characters inserted that the computer, you know, interprets into some malware URL. It's so hard to defend against that with VPNs and endpoint technologies and firewalls. So from that perspective, a fundamental shift needs to happen. How do organizations secure themselves? They absolutely need to really take a step back and architect their networks, you know, with cloud security based, you know, technologies and cloud security based, you know, architectures.